petroleum reserve as well. And so we were very much instrumental in discussions for many, many weeks, trying to figure out what are the right tools for the particular situation, the particular market dynamics, including a very dynamic and volatile market as we've seen just over the last few days. So I'm very proud of the 50 million barrel announcement that the president made. And there's a lot of flexibility in there to deal with the ups and downs and the challenges and what the market will do over the next coming weeks and months. So I think we're in a really good place with that announcement.
So this, as you say, was a long time coming. And you, in fact, you were at the COP in Glasgow, and you met with your counterpart from Russia, Pavel Sorokin. And what did you talk with him about?
Well, I had a lot of fascinating conversations at the COP. Not only met with my counterpart from Russia, had a chance to meet with Abdulaziz, who's the Saudi energy minister, had a very extensive conversation with him, conversations with the Europeans, conversations with Japanese counterparts from around the world. And I think it was no secret from the US side of things, we're trying to get all countries of the world, certainly on the climate change front, to step up, to be ambitious, to be aggressive, not only in the 2050, 2060 long-term time frame, but maybe even more importantly, I would argue even more importantly, what are they doing now? What's the plan over the next few years to really try to get emissions in check and putting us on a trajectory that we need to going forward?
But part of the talks there in Glasgow that you had were on energy security. So was this SPR deal coming together there as well? Were you telling the Russians and the Saudis that the US would like to see more oil, but had this other option?
Well, I think there's a lot of shared interests, I have to say, and certainly when you look at what impacts citizens around the world. Also met with Indian counterparts and a number of other Chinese counterparts as well at the COP. And the way we're viewing it, certainly for this administration, this Department of Energy, is we need to move aggressively, we need to move ambitiously, we need to move with a sense of urgency for diverse clean energy supplies and technologies in the future. And in many ways, if we had moved even quicker and more dramatically to build up clean hydrogen, to build up offshore wind, to build up energy storage, a range of clean energy technologies, geothermal, we'd be in a much better place right now and not beholden to one commodity and the price swings that go with that one commodity and the effect that that has with consumers on the pump in our country, in other countries as well. So a lot of the conversations were how we can diversify our clean energy supplies and technologies and move ambitiously for the benefit of consumers, the benefit of affordability, the benefit of resilience, reliability, all those kinds of things. That energy ministries around the world were real world ministries that we focus on a regular basis. And of course, as part of those conversations, we need to make sure that there is supply, there is resilience, there is reliability in terms of energy that's being used right now. And that was certainly part of the conversations with a wide range of countries at the COP and before the COP and after the COP as well.
And now that the release deal has been announced, it was introduced as China would participate. President Biden said China would do more, but we haven't really seen China pitch in on this release yet. In fact, the state-backed media had an editorial a couple of days after it saying, releasing oil is a good idea, but let's not forget that the U.S. is asking us for a favor, and we have the upper hand here. So what do you think of China's participation at this point?
Well, let me answer in two ways, if I can, Tim. One, to describe what we did a little bit more and how this is a flexible tool that will, no matter where the market goes, it'll be a useful tool for us over the coming months. And then speak about the China piece and other countries as well that were part of the announcement that was made. From our end, what we announced was 50 million barrels, but also announced that we've got flexibility in how to do the release over this next several month period of time, understanding that we're in a volatile market. We've been in a volatile oil market since COVID hit. And I think that has shown itself out in the last several days in terms of where the price of oil has gone based on the fears of the Omicron in particular, and where the global economy is going more generally. So what we did is announced a flexible set of tools, something called an exchange for 32 million barrels, up to 32 million barrels, and then 18 million barrels in a more traditional sale, something that's already been congressionally authorized. We've got a lot of flexibility. The president gave us flexibility as part of that announcement of when to time that exchange, when to do the sale, when to use those tools over the next several month period of time, depending on where the price of oil is and depending on where the price of gasoline is at the pumps for consumers. So if the price of oil goes down significantly, if the pain at the pump that's currently being experienced by consumers around our country and around the world as well dissipates for whatever reason, then we use the tools differently than we would use if the price remains high or even goes up further along those lines. So we purposefully put in place flexible tools that allow us to adapt depending on where things are over this next several month period of time. To your point about China and other countries, this was really robust diplomacy, a lot of conversations, and a lot of shared interests as well. It's in the Chinese consumers and the Chinese economy to have low, affordable prices, stable prices that they pay at the pump for their gasoline, that they pay for their natural gas, that they pay for oil more broadly for all that it does in the petrochemical industry and other industries as well. So it's in Japan's interest, it's in South Korea's interest, it's in India's interest, the other countries that join this effort, and China's interest as well. So it's not a country doing another country a favor, it's shared interests, and it's good diplomacy to understand where those shared interests lie.
And when do you expect China to move? I mean, this deal was supposed to be in concert with other releases, but the oil prices has dropped. As you mentioned, the variant has played a big role in the price drop, and so has the announcement. I mean, might we see a release from China in coming months if the price jumps up again?
So I think all of us are watching the markets very carefully and closely. We're all watching what's going to happen at the OPEC and OPEC Plus meeting over the next few days period of time as well. And of course, we're having active conversations with key countries to share perspectives or whatnot along those lines. And I think each country will make decisions based on what's useful and good for their consumers and based on where the price is along those lines. China has already not only privately but publicly expressed interest in tapping into their reserves in order to moderate the price and to make sure that we have some stability in the markets going forward. Again, that's in their interest as much as it's in any other countries or consumers' interests out there. And I suspect we will see different kinds of announcements and different kinds of measures from their end, just as you'll see additionally from the US side, depending on where the price goes and depending on, first and foremost, let me just say this incredibly clearly on behalf of this administration. The metric of success for any policy from our end related to these issues is what is the price at the pump, what are consumers paying, et cetera. If that price goes down, that is a good thing for consumers at the pump. The metric of our success is not whether we get 50 million barrels out as quickly as we possibly can. The metric of success is to use the tools that the president has been given us so that we can have that impact on consumers as helpfully as we can over a period of time. That's where our flexibility to use our tools, the exchange, the sale, is incredibly helpful. And we hope other countries are thinking about this, not at one particular moment in time, but over a period of time to deal with a volatile market.
So the people you worked on this with in the administration, National Security Advisor Sullivan, the president's energy security advisor, Amos Hochstein, other people. Are you guys meeting on a regular basis still, or was that more like when the price was up?
So we definitely are meeting on a regular basis. There have been several conversations I've had with the folks that you mentioned and others who are very much part of the brain trust in trying to think these things through. and folks like Brian Deese and certainly Ron Klain, who are focused on the economy overall, supply chain issues, and as well as the COVID, which remains job one, right? If we can deal with the COVID, a lot of these other challenges work themselves out. The oil disruption is fundamentally a COVID challenge caused by COVID demand and supply being out of whack and things not, and the economy not dealing with in the way that they normally would deal with. So all of those pieces are interrelated, but certainly on the oil price, natural gas, heating costs is something we're very focused on, especially in the Northeast and other parts of the country that traditionally have higher prices. And we're using LIHEAP and other mechanisms to try to reduce that cost on consumers as well. So we'll continue to meet regularly and certainly have additional conversations to make sure that, again, we're doing everything we can in this government and certainly from the Department of Energy to help consumers across the country.
You talked about prices at the pump going down partly as a result of coordinated releases. Here's the thing, though, that this release was announced in a time of not particularly high oil prices, $80 a barrel. It is way below the record for oil of 147 hit more than a decade ago in 2008. Are you concerned, that if the U.S. keeps doing this, the price of oil is not going to get that high? There's like this sort of ceiling for it. So efforts to move to the energy transition could be stymied because, after all, lots of people buy electric vehicles or think about it because the gasoline price is high.
Well, two-part answer to this one too, Tim. First answer is this is why we designed the particular mechanisms that we did, given the particulars of this market, given the volatility, given the backward dated nature of the oil market right now, or at least several weeks ago when we made the decision, where we had high prices, not historically high prices, but high prices, and certainly consumers are being impacted. And this is a president, this is a Secretary Granholm, myself, who pay attention very closely to what's happening to real people out there in the real world. And there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of challenge, not just because the price of gasoline was high, but because of the price of groceries and other kinds of broader economic issues. But this was something that we wanted to deal with on the gas price side of things. So what we put in place was tools, this exchange, this sale that we can forward as needed to deal with the fluctuations in prices going high. We did not make an emergency designation, which we have that authority to do that in that particular situation and get more oil as we've done with Katrina and other supply disruptions in the past. We chose a set of tools dealing with this backward-dated market, dealing with this exchange mechanism, which actually in the long run has more oil go into the SPR. So it's not like we're taking oil out of the SPR. The exchange works. You get oil out there when the market is high, when the price is high, and then a year, 2 years later, when the price is low, which is what analysts are expecting when supply catches up to the demand side of things, then you actually have not only the same oil come back in, the same amount of oil, you actually have a premium. So our taxpayers or consumers are actually getting more oil in the SPR by using this exchange mechanism. So again, we designed that in the way. But to your second part of your question, is this administration and the bipartisan infrastructure bill legislation gives us huge additional authorities, huge additional funding to be helpful on this. We're transitioning, we're going quickly. We're trying to push the EV side of things. We're trying to push the offshore wind side of things. We're trying to push the hydrogen side of things, the CCUS, the storage side of things. Consumers, reliability, affordability will be much, much better off if we can accelerate more diverse supplies into our own system. It's better for consumers, better for resilience overall, et cetera. And we're moving with a real sense of urgency on this. So I don't think there's anything inconsistent with what we're trying to do here. We're trying to move as aggressively as we can on the clean energy front.
There's also been an effort by some Democrats to ban U.S. oil exports, so that would keep U.S. oil production in the U.S. for U.S. consumption. Is that a good idea?
So we've had conversations with some of those members of Congress who've asked for that, and we've had a lot of internal discussions as well on that. And it's a volatile market. Certainly all the tools that are available to the president, to the secretary, to the rest of us in this administration will continue to be looked at, and we will choose those tools just like what we did with the exchange and the sale as part of the 50 million barrels that's best matched up for the particular situation that we currently find ourselves. So we'll continue those conversations on all the full range of tools, Tim.
But couldn't a ban on U.S. exports be a bad idea, because U.S. oil refineries are geared to run on imported oil, which is a lot heavier than a lot of U.S. oil. So that could really depress prices of domestic crude and not really do anything for gasoline or diesel. It could still be high.
Well, it's certainly true, and you've done reporting on this, and there's a lot of analysts and experts out there. It is an interconnected oil market in many, many ways, not only in the U.S., but globally as well. And we've certainly heard from members of Congress who feel both ways on this issue as well from their perspectives also. And again, what we do in this department, we've got phenomenal analysts, we've got phenomenal information that are at our fingertips. And so we're putting together all that analysis, all that information to inform decision-making by our secretary and ultimately by the president.
Now, turning to the energy transition a little more, you've been involved in the department's Earth shots. So these are they're programs and goals to reduce the price of some technologies that are not really commercial yet, like green hydrogen, making hydrogen from wind and solar, and there's also purple hydrogen from nuclear. I learned this year. Other Earth shots on long-term storage and batteries. So are we to see more of these Earth shots coming out in months ahead, and perhaps how many more?
Well, absolutely. And our broader strategy, Tim, is really focused in two areas. One is our secretary likes to just say, deploy, deploy, deploy. So those clean energy technologies that are at a cost competitive or even a cost favorable perspective, let's use all the tools that we have in our tool belt. And thanks to Congress and the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, we've now got $62 billion additional dollars that have been given to the department, 60 new authorities that have been given to the department to be helpful to deploy clean energy technologies to the benefit of communities, to the benefit of manufacturers, to the benefit ultimately of consumers out there. And so we'll deploy, 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 whether it's solar or offshore wind or a range of technologies. Again, those that are cost competitive, let's get those out into the marketplace. And so we'll work on that side of things. The second part of the strategy, and we can walk and chew gum here at the same time, is we do still need to innovate. There are some key clean energy technologies that aren't at the price point now that we need them to be to play a robust, large role, significant role, substantial role in our economy. And so that's where the Earth shots comes in. So what we've looked at is what are those key technologies to be able to get us to a net zero economy by 2050 that we still need to do some significant innovation, significant cost reduction. So we've launched 3 so far, Tim, as you said, 1 on clean hydrogen, 1 on long duration storage, and a 3rd one on carbon negative technologies. What we're hoping to do is use all our national labs, use all the expertise we have at DOE, working in partnership with state and local governments, the private sector. For the long duration storage, for example, driving the price of long duration storage down 90% from where it is currently. So dramatic cost reductions. For hydrogen, getting to $1 per kilogram for clean hydrogen within the decade. So huge, huge cost reductions, the kinds of cost reductions we've seen on solar PV and some other technologies. We just need to have the full range of technologies available for all parts of our economy to decarbonize. So we've got 3. I just got a memo a couple of days ago, the secretary and I, with 4 additional proposals. We'll have several more coming out. We've said publicly we'd like to have somewhere between 6 to 10 of these Earth shots announced, one every couple month period of time. And certainly for all the viewers, if you have suggestions for additional Earth shots that we should be pursuing, please let us know at the department, and we'll have a portfolio of these Earth shots to really focus on that innovation prompt.
Deputy U.S. Energy Secretary David Turk, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. Great to be with you.